elections and campaigns are definitely hot in the air right now. And we're trying to get perspective from as many corners or people or, voices as we can. We have a team lead for the Future Project here with us, Olamile Komidiji. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So I know young people have gotten a lot of flack recently, especially with how vocal they have been on social media. We seem to get that a lot. I think especially since 2020, we understand what happened to the protest in October. And social media has suddenly become this place where people say, oh, young people just make noise here. There's a lot of anger we see on social media. What are your thoughts on how this anger is channeled? Is it effective enough, you think? Have you seen a shift in how young people reason and see politics and engage with politics?
Okay, so basically for me, I think it is not bad to be angry. Yeah, and it is not bad to show your dissatisfaction against the government through whatever means you are able to do this, be it social media or physically through protest. But one thing I think is very crucial is to know where to channel your anger to. Not to other persons who do not reason as you do or who do not think the person you believe will be the best candidate for the next election. So we should know where to channel our anger. And another thing is, we are dissatisfied about the present leadership or the present leaders basically. Doesn't mean we should now wait till the next election before we're able to do anything. We can still do something. One thing is, as Nigerians, our leader is not only Buhari. We have several leaders, and every Nigeria has the power to elect about 7 people or to hold about 7 people accountable. But everybody focuses on Buhari or the presidency. How about your local government? If you are angry about the situation of things, are you at the same time angry with your local government chairman who has not done anything? Do you know that your local government chairman receives some allocation from the federal government? And through this, your anger, are you following up to see whether your local government chairman is actually executing this project he is being paid for? So this is the best way to be angry, not just to wait till next election, oh, your PVC will do the talking. Yeah, your PVC would work, but do not wait till then. You can still do a lot of things. Does it mean that our elected officials should be idle till the next election? No. The fact that we are angry still means there is a lot more to do with the people we have currently in terms of affairs.
I hear you there, and then one of the conversations people always wonder about is that, like you said, is government responsible for everything, though? Yes, we call out Mr. President. People seem to call out some of their state governors as well. Yeah. We see those conversations going on. Did you see too much blame on government when you see those complaints? I mean, we're in the Jackpot era now. Everybody seems to want to leave, and everybody tells you it's because of government policy, government policy, government policy. Is that a fair way to analyze what Nigeria is going through today?
Okay, so one thing about leadership or governance is responsibility. That's the price to pay. So at any point in time, the government will continue to be blamed. However, we should not forget that as citizens, we all have our social responsibility. When the government has its own responsibility to deliver on their mandates or on the requirements of their political office, we should know that as citizens, we also have to be socially responsible as citizens by being law-abiding and following up with political processes. Here, a lot is happening, and majority of what is happening comes from the government. So people, to a large extent, yeah, people are being fair when they show their dissatisfaction, when they blame the government that, oh, we are not enjoying things as it ought to be, then people are not being dishonest or being sincere. They are actually right.
How can people get more involved, though? Do you think there's anything more that needs to be done? Yes, PVC registration, voter registration is done now. Yeah. But what do you want to see young people doing now? I mean, especially now that campaigns are hot in the air. We seem to be seeing marches everywhere. There's marches and parades and rallies all over the place. I guess that's one way. But what do you want to see young people do more now? If you're talking about asking questions, how do they get their questions answered from candidates, some of whom are not even ready to take something as small as an interview in the first place? But what should young people be thinking about at this moment?
Okay, at this moment, the very first thing to do at this moment is because everybody thinks that the next election is very germane. So at this moment, they should try to get their PVC and be ready to vote their perceived best candidate in the next election. Beyond that, they should as well follow up. There are ways to call out people. It's a social media era. Twitter is not more like a public sphere now where we handle all affairs of governance. We do not wait to come to one TV channel or anywhere. Just with a Twitter space, you are calling out a governor or any elected official, you are tagging him or her, and within a few minutes, you will hear from the media heads. So one of the ways to go is to always call out government officials, public officials who are not delivering on their mandates. Look at our senators, honorables, House of Representative members. They all have projects they've nominated for this year. That, okay, for the whole of 2022, we'll be doing something in my constituency, in my senatorial district, I'll be doing this. These documents are online. When you check the budget office, it's there. When you check budget, on budget website, it is there. Even on Y Monitor website, when you check, go to ymonitor.org, under reports, you find all of these documents there, constituency projects that have been nominated by lawmakers. You will see them there. Even, for instance, you stay in Oshodi, just go online, search for this constituency project. You know the name of your lawmaker, you see there that, okay, has nominated so-so project for a particular street. Follow up. Maybe 2 blocks of classroom in a particular primary school. Follow up. If nothing is done, call out this elected official. This is one of the ways to go.
So these PVCs, you can't register anymore, but it's time to collect them, is what you're saying. So people should make sure that they have that in mind, to make sure they pick up their PVCs before time. Tell us about the future project symposium that's holding this year.
Okay, so this year's symposium is a very important one because it actually focuses on people, politics, and power. The relationship between the three things, or the collective relationship between the people and how they continue to hear their power. So this year's symposium actually is, TFP, the Future Project Symposium, is a knowledge exchange between young and emerging leaders. It's a platform where present leaders come, activists, as well as young leaders come to discuss political issues and how they affect people. It's not always about discussion alone, but it focuses on coming about probable solutions and strategies to broad issues of governance. For instance, there has been a noise about, for instance, about young people and what they want for a better Nigeria. One thing I've always thought about is that as young people, we cannot have a particular candidate. That, okay, young people, who do we vote for? 2023 is coming, who do we vote for? And to me, I think we cannot have just one person to vote for. You vote for this person, and to me, I may be thinking of Ubi, and I'm thinking of Kwankwaso or Showore. So we cannot have same person. But this kind of symposium is where we now come to discuss these things, and we don't just discuss and go. We discuss to come about probable solutions and strategy to help people participate more in political processes and to also help young leaders network. After the symposium, we'll be coming up with a white paper that would highlight all the recommendations and conclusions from this symposium, which will be sent to public officials as well as political activists towards a better political process while interfacing with the 2023 election. So
who is supposed to be at this symposium?
Okay, so the symposium is a very balanced one, as we've invited speakers from the electoral umpire itself, the resident electoral commissioner, INEC Lagos, Honorable Olusegun Agbaje, who will be coming. And we also have the youth leader for the All Progressive Congress, Dayo Israel, will also be there. And we have Aisha, Comrade Aisha Yesufu, to also be there as a panelist. We have Tacha, we have Antoleki. We have the country director of budget, Nigeria, Gabriel Okeowo, and we have one of the presidential candidates for SDP, Khadija Okuno, and lots more speakers to be here on Wednesday, 12th October.
So if I wanted to be a part of it, what do I need to do?
Simply just go to ymonitor.org or just check any of our social media platform at ymonitor, at y_monitor, then you'll find the registration link in our bar.
Okay, great stuff. I wanted to find out, what does leadership in the Nigerian context look like to you now? We've had all sorts. We've been under the military, we've had interim governments, we've had some sort of civilian rule, we've had democracy in many forms. But as we go into 2023 now, what does leadership in the Nigerian context look like to you, or what should it look like to young Nigerians today? Okay.
So I think leadership in the Nigerian context can look more like good leadership or good leadership in any part of the country. I think the major question should be, how do we create good leadership in Nigeria? Because to me, you see, what I see about as good leadership, there's a particular governorship presidential candidate, wherever he talks, he may want to mention China. Another person will talk and mention another country. Yeah, good leadership can look more like any of these good countries that we may think of, but it is now important that we think of how to create good leadership. And one of the ways to go is to create sustainable leadership. If I am here as a governor or as a president, I shouldn't be concerned about just myself, let me just do what I want to do. I want to go home. I want to go to my farm. No, you should be concerned about who takes over from you to sustain that legacy or that thing you think you've been doing that is good. Not just anybody to come and he or she would now come with another plan. No, a good leadership is what's sustainable. And not just sustainable alone, it is interdependent. There's something known as, I think, slow flake leadership style, where you are not just there, you are creating other leaders. You are concerned about people who work with you. For instance, as the president, you have ministers. You do not just leave them to what they ought to do. You check on them if they are delivering on the requirements of their ministry. So this is what good leadership means. It also means transparency and accountability, being accountable to the people. Whenever they call you, you would not see them as undermining the corporate existence of the country because they are protesting or because they are showing their dissatisfaction. No, a good leadership system would allow for this criticism, would allow citizens to show their dissatisfaction and would take correction and show honesty to communicate with people. This is our current situation. Not that you'll be doing PR, so you're granting some media interviews and trying to say some things about when we know that we are all suffering. But you are granting interviews and telling people that it's all good here. No, that's not good leadership.
Something you mentioned at the start of this interview that I wanted to go back on is how you say, if you're dissatisfied with something, you should be channeling your anger at the government, not at other people on social media. Mm. And we seem to be seeing that a lot these days, where it looks like if you don't agree with my choice of candidates or my ideology, you're automatically the enemy. This looks like it will be a very hard fight to win. Letting people understand that the fact that we disagree doesn't mean we can have civil conversations. But conversation seems to degenerate so much on social media now. The moment I say, oh, I like this guy, I'm automatically seen as the devil or as the enemy.
So far, no, it tire you.
How do we start to have that conversation? Do you think it's possible in this cycle, considering how heated things already are?
Well, people have started having the conversation, but these people who are angry do not agree because they felt it was that anger that brought in Buhari. So they think that the same anger will bring in their candidate. So I'm not sure it will change, actually. Yeah. But one thing is, for you that you're supporting another candidate should not allow that to get into you. So there's something in a spiral of silence. Don't give in to that. Still continue to support your candidate. Support him or her openly. So because these people, I'm not sure the anger will stop anytime. So they'll continue to channel their anger. And I think they think it is to them it is a strategy. Yeah. So they are not likely to stop.
The searchlight has been on INEC for quite a while now. People are trying to be sure, that this umpire is not biased, is going to effectively do their job. We've had a few state elections leading up to this, and they've been relatively okay. Looking at the way INEC is set up now, do you see that young people have some faith in what they will be doing come February? How do you feel about their preparedness so far?
Okay, so sometime around January, February, there was this campaign. We also had some advocacy visit on electoral reform and the electoral bill. And ever since the president has signed this bill, a lot of people have started to have this confidence in the 2023 election, particularly due to the electronic transmission of results. To a larger extent, this is one of it. But people still have this, some people have still lost their confidence in INEC. They still believe that, no, this INEC, we are not sure. We are not just sure. Because, okay, recently now, they appointed some resident electoral commissioner and some civic organization has sued the federal government that, no, these people are partisan. They shouldn't be seen anywhere close to being, anywhere close to INEC, not to talk of being resident commissioner. So citizens still have this kind of disconnection or distrust about INEC. But to a larger extent, we think that this electoral Act will do a lot more things. And INEC is also trying. We would see that in recent time, INEC has been partnering with several organizations. You see them with Young Africa, you see them with Y Monitor. We're able to bring some of the INEC officials for some program, for Twitter Spaces and all. They are trying, but they need to do more. For instance, now, advocacy has started on PVC collection. People have registered. A lot of people have registered, but a lot of people are still yet to collect their own. And about two things are involved if you register for your PVC and you do not collect. For instance, INEC has seen that, okay, over, I think about 90 million people registered for their PVC. INEC will prepare for next election with regards to this number of people. They would budget, I think, about $2 per person. That is how they would develop their own budget. Okay, an average voter would require about, let's say, about $2 for the ballot paper, for this and that, for anything that will cater for that person. But if a citizen ends up not coming out to vote, then the person is also part of those wasting the country's resources. You've registered that you want to vote, but now they've printed your PVC, you've not gone to collect. What happened? You've wasted the country's resources in printing that PVC. And if you now collect again, they're expecting you to turn up on election day to vote, printing your ballot paper. And if you do not turn up to vote, you've also wasted the country's resources, that ballot paper that has been printed for you. But then, that's the citizen side. INEC also has to do more. For instance, people have registered, you collected their phone number, you collected their email address. Why not send a mail or text message that your PVC is ready, kindly go for collection at so. Just give them the address again. They might have forgotten. Tell them the address again. If you are doing all of these things, and this is one of the ways to go. Not after or a few days to election, now started to grant press interview that 20 million PVCs yet to be collected. Why? We still have lots of months now. Continue with that advocacy that people should come for their PVC.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things I think INEC should do to further build the trust in them.
I was looking at, the theme for the Why Monitor Symposium, people, power, and politics, you said.
Yeah.
So, of course, young people seem to have the people part covered. We are the largest demographic today in the country.
Sure.
We most likely will determine who becomes president or who wins any seat of government in this country next year, considering the fact that a good number of people under 40 are in charge of, have the largest demographic. So people is covered. We saw what happened with the Not Too Young to Run bill. It became law now. So the politics side of things, we had a lot more young people trying to get into sort of politics or, party politics or elective positions. A lot of them didn't necessarily win the primaries, but at least we saw some interest increased. The power part, though, seems to be the conundrum now. You look at the field, whether it's from the presidential candidates to even, maybe state houses of assembly positions, you see a few young people there. Are you impressed with the power side of things when it comes to young people? A lot of people have said money is the biggest divider. We we can't match, the older guys when it comes to the money side of things. Is that the only reason why you think that deficit is still there?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, but not the only reason, basically. So now, for the symposium, we have about 3 panel sessions, and 2 panel sessions will be focusing on people, young people in particular. For instance, the first panel session focuses on young people and the politics of money in Nigeria. So we all know that, okay, after the Young to Run bill was passed, a lot of young people showed interest. But at the end of the day, some of them could not go beyond primary election. Even those who went beyond primary election will be waiting for funds from their presidential candidate or governorship candidate to support them. So it means that they cannot actually go far. And an average political leader or chairman in the state would not want to, give their party flag to someone who does not have the money to run a campaign. So we know that money is an issue. Just recently, the last primary election conducted by political parties, we saw forms sold for 100 million. We saw some 44 million. Young person, I don't know. People are rich in Nigeria, but I'm not really sure.
A lot of young people can afford that.
I'm not sure. I don't want to be statistic, but I'm just wondering a kind of young person that will be able to afford that particular amount to buy just expression of interest form. Not to talk of campaigning around the several and some of the 4 local government areas in the country. So the money aspect is an issue. It's more like a conundrum or an hindrance to get into this power. But again, we now have another panel session on hashtags to ballot, raising the bar high for increased political participation. Now, a lot of young people online, supporting their candidates. Some of them, 5 million man march as it is ongoing now. Yesterday I was in Ogun, that one was going for another presidential candidate. Yeah, it's ongoing. So one power that is now available for the young people. If you do not really have this money, you have the population. With your population, you can actually gain the power and actually, you can actually have your say. If you do not have the money, though you still need money, there's no way you would want to run for political position that you do not need money. But with the little you have, coupled with your population, you will get to where you want to go. Not just, because we don't have money and there's nothing we can do, because that's more like a political depression. And young people should not be politically depressed. Political depression is about you are not satisfied about how things is going. You want things to change, but you think you cannot change anything. So you just sat down at home, you did not go for your PVC, and you did not vote in the election. No, it will continue that way, and nothing will happen. You'll continue to be affected.
Yeah.
So young people have...
That actually leads me to my next question, which I think is very fundamental, because I get that a lot from people saying, "Oh, who will I vote for? If they go there now, after I spend my time voting for them, they'll still do what they want to do." And the question is about accountability now. We're in the season of promises now. We already started hearing all the promises. I will do this, I will do that. I promise you this. This is going to happen in 1 year, 100 days in office. All sorts of promises are going to be made. How do we listen to those promises and hold them accountable for them when they get into office? We've seen what happened with governments in power now, not just the president, across board, even states, making all those promises. But when they go in there, the door is shut and people don't even know how to sort of hold them accountable. Say, but you said this. Is there a way that can start happening? What should young people do at a time when we're hearing all sorts of promises now, and by May 29th next year, we don't know what the reality would be,
Yeah. So I think the promises will continue to be that way. Politicians now, what they are concerned about is, what do I say to people? And one thing is, a lot of these politicians are not the one developing their campaign plans or manifestos and all. Policy documents, they are not the ones. So they'll just look out for writers who can come up with good English, and they don't know what is actually happening. So I think to a large extent, to be honest, this will continue. But we as citizens, what we can do is to be critical. Some of them will be granting interviews now. Journalists also ought to ask them critical questions. You say, well, you said you want to do this. How are you able to do it? Can you just give out a strategic plan on how you want to do it? This is one of the things we need. Not telling us that we will do this, we will do this. I don't want to mention a particular, I will just mention it, we do. No, let us know how you want to do it. This is not, we know there are some issues of national security, but that's left to the Nigerian military or Nigerian defense. Just let us have an idea of what you want to do. If we know it, then we are able to follow up and we support it. But if we see that, oh, this thing is not obtainable, God, no, think about it. Did you talk to your campaign people that, no, what your principal wants to do is not obtainable in Nigeria? Then from there, if that kind of leader is willing to change after being told that, no, this thing you want to do, we are not sure it can work, and the person is open to such correction, and that's a kind of trait of a good leader. Doesn't mean that's the best candidate, but at least such person has a good trait of taking to correction.
We're talking about the symposium, which is coming up on the 12th of October, which is on Wednesday, I believe, yes. And it says you go to Y_monitor.
Yeah, just Y_monitor on social media.
On social media, and get all the details and ask all the questions that you need to ask. But we're still talking about elections, just very quickly before we round up now. We're hearing a lot now that rigging is no longer possible. So what we seem to hear now is vote buying. So people are induced to vote certain candidates, since you can't necessarily snatch ballot boxes anymore. We also hear on the other side people say, no, we need debates. We need debates to know who our candidates are, to know who I'm going to vote for. But as people who say, nobody cares about debates really in this part of the world. It doesn't really sway people. Young people are the ones most likely to sell their votes, because the unemployment rate, we know what it is. People have no jobs. A lot of young people are just, especially in our rural areas, are just waiting for, this is the opportunity to make money from these politicians, no matter how big or small. How do you see things playing out? Do you think debates are important, first of all? Do you think it's something that we should be, compelling these candidates to be a part of? And how do you think we can fight this vote-buying situation that seems to now be a part of our political system, if possible? As individuals now, and I'm not talking as a collective, what should young people do when they're approached in times like that?
Okay, so I want to start with something first. So you said about, rigging is not possible, but there's another thing people are not talking about. It is litigation after election. These politicians will still go to court to go and fight that, oh, I was the one that won, I have brought about 50 sand and the likes. The Osho election that we were shouting that, oh, the election was free and fair, because of the electronic transmission of results. There's still a particular issue in the courts now. And, lawyers, I'm sorry, I don't want to say anything about the profession, but anything can happen. So litigation after election is another issue. But then to vote buying is something that it's a big issue, actually, a very big one. So for instance, people are really suffering, and you will tell them that, oh, 2,000 naira, what would 2,000 naira do to ruin the next 4 years of your life? An average person would not think about that, because another person is concerned about immediate needs. It is you that have money that you are investing for the future. Someone that has not eaten, you're talking about investing for the future. But I think as individuals, we should try as much as possible to hold on to our conscience, that you know who the right person is. And even if we tell people that collect money and vote your conscience, this is not very easy, because money does a whole lot of things. Someone can be hungry now, and with a few thousand naira, the person will start smiling. So money is something that can change people's mind. But as individuals, I just think we should try as much as possible to reject this thing. That problem you have, that money would not solve it all. It will rather compound it if that person that you have sold your vote for does not do well. So if the person is not competent enough. So to a very large extent, vote buying should be discouraged among people, and they should know that the problem we are currently facing is a lot more than having a few thousand naira for just a day.
I think my question now is, how do we get that message to these people? Because we've talked about things like this a lot on this show, but I always get people telling me, the people you're talking to are not watching you, you know? How do we get that message now to the grassroots, to the rural areas, to people, so that they understand the gravity of their decision?
Okay, so people are actually working, civil society organizations are working. For instance, Why Monitor, recently we produced a voter education comic book in about 5 languages: English, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, and Pidgin. So what we did was to go to the grassroots to engage people. We give them this comic, those who can read, whatever language they can read, and we explain to them. The comic is about, you know, a particular occurrence where someone had to sell his vote, and at the end of the day, it didn't end well. So people should continue to try to do this. One thing very important with this election is not just about one person. Your vote will do a lot, but other person's votes would affect you. So you shouldn't be concerned about yourself alone. You should also be concerned about other people. While you are very convinced that you'll not be selling your vote, you should also be concerned about other persons and talk to them that selling their votes will still affect them. So as it starts with individuals telling other persons not to do, then it goes to civic organization trying to do their best in, you know, galvanizing people against selling their votes. Then we have the National Orientation Agency. As the election is coming by now, we should be seeing several television commercials or radio jingles telling people, sensitizing people not to sell their votes. Even INEC too can do this. So it's a responsibility of everyone.
Thank you very much, Olamide. And just before we go now, 12th of October, the Y Symposium is holding.
Yeah, the Nigerian Symposium for Young and Emerging Leaders at the Muzon Center, Onikon, Lagos.
All right. Make sure you're a part of it. You can follow the social media handles. Yeah. Like you said, thanks a lot for joining us today, and we wish you all the best with the symposium.
Thank you.
And like I always say, you can follow the conversation on social media. Please use the hashtag #RubbinMinds when you send us a message. I'll see you next Sunday. Don't just stand